Good afternoon. A lot of the information I was going to present would be a repetition of what we just saw, and therefore I'm going to go quickly through some of the slides and perhaps just focus on two or three points. Guatemala has 305,000 hectares of coffee and about 125,000 producers and 8 coffee growing regions. Countrywide, we have 7 regional offices and 19 sub-regional offices, technical seminars, regional fairs, and 117 coffee technicians. Ana Cafe provides new ideas and technologies through an annual coffee congress where we bring in the best speakers that are available at that time, and it also provides technical services through its cupping profile lab, its soil and leaf analysis lab for precise fertilization programs, and it has a research and investigation department and a school for roasting and coffee preparation. Ana Cafe is also very involved in promoting and participating in trade shows, and this is to find new niches and new possibilities of selling our coffee and finding value-added opportunities. Ana Cafe's social arm is Fun Cafe, and it's focused on food security, health, and education. Ana Cafe also works with international cooperation agencies such as USAID, with its Rural Value Chain project. And this project is mainly established on the western part of the country, and it has more than 10,000 beneficiaries. Here we see a graph of exports by coffee type and volume, and we see how during the years coffee production shifted from lowland large farms to highland small farms, and the market basically did this, and we'll see with all the new climatic factors if the market will dictate again such a pronounced change. Nowadays, most of Guatemala's coffee is rust susceptible, and only about 13% is Catimors and 1% Robusta. However, in the last year, most people replanted with Catimors and Sarchimors, but now we're seeing again debate if that's the best way to go. So I think that's not clear yet about how the country is going to be replanted. We found a new variety called Ana Café 14, which is, it originated near the border with Honduras, and it's a hybrid between Pacamar and Catimor, and we're very excited about it because it was not only leaf rust resistant, but it's also adapted to many of the regional conditions that we have. And it is highly productive. And here's a picture of Ana Café 14 versus Catuai, which got defoliated on the same farm. And it has a pretty decent cup score, at least similar to Catuai from the same farm. In 2012, which is when we got hit first by the rust leaf crisis, we entered this problem having high prices, high coffee prices. And now in last year and this year, we're entering, or we could be entering if we were to be hit again by such an epidemic with low volume and low prices. So it would be, at least for us, a totally different scenario. Uh, Guatemala has had a pretty fairly steady foreign exchange rate between 750 and 8 and quetzales per dollar, which if we compare it to Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, who these countries have had a much drastic devaluation, this is a factor that has affected us. Another important part is the minimum wage. We've experienced an increase every year, and if we accumulate the last 8 years, this amounts to a 55% increase in cost of labor. And without having a devaluation, it definitely makes more pressure on the coffee producer. Sorry. This is a production cost flow chart, and we did this based on 7 medium-sized coffee farms from the different areas of the country. And this is the average of these costs. And the most important are the direct costs, 43% in inputs, 57% in labor. And the main labor percentages go in harvest, wet mill, shade, and weed control. And in inputs, it's fertilizers, fungicides, and the nursery. And with the present price scenario, with the example of these 7 farms that we studied, the best case scenario of these farms, the cost was an FOB price of 160. Worst case scenario was 240, and the average cost of all 7 was 200. So with a price scenario of 120 and a differential of plus 40 for SHP, it would give us a selling price of 160, and with an average cost scenario of 200, this would give us a $40 loss. And what this implies is that the producer is going to reduce labor and fertilizer input, and thereby he's going to have less productivity and more indirect costs, and could enter a vicious cycle if prices continue at this level. And this is going to also give little motivation to the producer to continue. And it's going to have consequences in either using up his savings or diversifying and going into other businesses. Climate change adds additional pressure. We already saw and heard a lot about that. So I won't go into it. This is a graph made by Dr. Jack Avellino, and he studied the average temperatures from 1981 to 2010 and compared them to the temperatures of 2012. And we see that the spread between high and low temperatures was less than the average temperatures. So that, in addition to low prices, less input of fertilizers and fungicides, are conditions that make a rust epidemic more propense. So Anacafe's initiatives are being involved in a variety breeding program with WCR and Prome Cafe, sharing with the producers the best pest management practices. Since we have new climatic conditions, we are also doing 8 test plot areas across the country where we're validating new agricultural practices, also developing early warning systems with weather stations and detection practices, and perhaps two new things also. We're seeing now more producers going into irrigation, We ourselves, our farm, we installed the irrigation in about 40% of the farm, and we're very happy that we did, because we did a large replanting, and if we hadn't done it with the dry period we had this year, we would have lost that investment. Other producers are also diversifying. Some, for example, are planting bananas and plantains within their coffee plantation. And from the study we did in the last 2 years, we come up that farmers that were diversified and had an alternative source of income, they were less affected than farmers that were only in the coffee business. So we're trying to keep our strategic alliances well informed. We're trying to serve as a good platform between them and coffee growers, and our goal is to manage and understand the increased risk of volatility in coffee production and find opportunities that are sustainable for all the chain. Thank you.